did ISB help you in shaping your career?
Economics. So I come from a family of doctors. I am the only one who ended up choosing non-traditional course. I took commerce firstly in class 11, 12. I was probably interested and inclined towards it. Then I realized that uh, if I've got marks and if I'm getting an admission for an economics degree, let's take it up. So I took admission at Shriram College of Commerce, University of Delhi, for my economics honor, and I would say it was a great experience. First of all, sitting in a classroom with the brightest minds and probably the rank holders. I would say that was the first experience which probably gave us the thought process of thinking big. I'll just say, because when you enter a college where you have alumni working in top corporates who are either CEOs, CFOs, heading the companies, or even in the politics side, you would have people like late Shri Arun Jaitley and others, right? So you at least feel that the college would give you enough opportunities to groom yourself and also enhance your skills to become one of those folks. So you start believing more that these things aren't impossible. So that's essentially was the first experience at Shriram College, and then I did a lot of activities, pretty active with the students union, running elections as part of corporate communications team, which used to raise the money and also organize the largest undergraduate business festival, which is called the Business Conclave, and also the cultural festival, which is called Crossroads. Part of various societies, did a lot of stuff. Then I thought, probably by the end of college, I thought, placements is something which has to happen, just because of the fact that, once I graduate, I should be looking forward to something. And I was very clear that I didn't want to join a very traditional company or probably a smaller role. And the reason for that was I thought that, at a pretty young age, my first experience should be to understand probably how an organization runs, or how different functions run, or probably even before that, what different functions are within a company. So I was fortunate enough to join a startup by an ISB alum. Worked pretty closely with the founding team. That startup later got acquired. The founder did another startup which also is doing pretty well. Had a very, very fulfilling 1.5 years there, and I felt that those 1.5 years allowed me to understand that probably what are the different dimensions of business, what are those. But I realized that my area of work, or probably the experience which I was having, was pretty limited to a specific geography, which was probably India, or let's say in the North India region. And I wanted to look for opportunities which would allow me to understand how, let's say, a global business would work. So there was a company called Shorelet Education, which was entering the Indian market with their D2C version. And traditionally, this line of business was non-existent for them, and they wanted to explore it. And I ended up joining their team. Again, I would say fortunate enough to have that opportunity, that able to work very closely with the vice president of global marketing, with the CEO based out of US, and be a part of a very, very small team where your ideas would be valued, and you could at least bring in some impact while working. So they were entering South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Middle East, and those were like 3 markets which we were looking after. So based out of the Gurgaon office and also traveling to other offices, we built the complete digital ecosystem, right from the web page to how the marketing campaigns would function, how the inside sales would function, how the sales efficiency would function, and things like those. Worked there for like 2.5 years. Very, very fulfilling experience, I would say. I mean, it allowed me to also understand the other side of education, right? I mean, that with education also there's a proper way it works, right? And I had opportunity during that time to visit almost every college in the US. I've been to, let's say, Harvard, MIT, Wharton, Stanford, New York City Stern, Columbia, lot of them, right? And while visiting those colleges, you also end up understanding how global schools function? What are a couple of programs or what are a couple of activities those guys do? And that's when I was wondering that I would need an MBA, and the need for MBA actually came in not necessarily from the fact that I had to do it or my batchmates were doing it, but because of the fact that I realized that now again within the current role I'm more limited to marketing and sales, right? And my understanding of a business or various dimensions of business would again be limited to this marketing, sales, education, and let's say 3 regions. Now, how do I firstly enhance my learning? Secondly, how do I enhance my network, and how do I probably go to a next stage whereby I can at least think through how big the world is, to be pretty honest, right? I mean, once you go from your school to a college like Shriram, you realize how big the world is. That's how people are. There are like different things, different roles, different careers which you can do. And that was my motive for doing an MBA. And I was pretty clear that I wanted to be back in India. So I didn't apply to any of the colleges probably in the US. I knew that, from a natural perspective, ISB is the top college, and let me apply. And I actually applied pretty late, right? So I had taken an off during Christmas, and luckily that's when the R3 applications came in for ISB the first time. I spoke to my first boss, who was an ISB alum, that I was thinking of applying. It's an R3, but let me just apply. So I just applied in January. February is when the interview happened. March is when the results came, and April is when I was at ISB. And pretty fast movement, to be honest, right? I left work on April 2nd. 6th of April is when I joined ISB. Again, when you enter ISB, it's again a jump where you realize that, boss, you're sitting with 960, 70 smartest folks, right? And I think a couple of folks from Global Creed who are ISB alums would agree to me. And that's when I realized, right, you know what different experiences people had, what are the different roles people had, and also when you go to a space like this, right, when a lot of people are better than you, what happens is that you realize the importance of collaboration. Otherwise, in general, the way education system has been functioning, it allows us to compete. It allows us to, become rank 1, rank 2, and that's essentially when you're competing. You're not collaborating in general, right? Look, I want a 760 on GMAT, I want a 750 on GMAT, I want a 360, whatever score, right? So I think that experience is pretty important for someone to realize that irrespective of whoever you are, irrespective whether you have a 760 GMAT or let's say coming from top colleges, you will still end up in places where you need to understand that there are people better than you, and the only way to move forward is to collaborate. There's no other way. And once you collaborate, you'll start realizing that it was better than being in a competitive space, because you are doing better from work perspective as well with collaborating, because you have some strength, the other person has some strength. Let's say I have strength with running the pipeline sales. Somebody would have a very, very strong sense of operations. Somebody would have very, very strong sense of the tech side of the business, right? And that's something which, if I were to pick it up, I would do it, let's say, in 4 years, 5 years. But that guy would do it in 3 months, right? So that gives you the ability to execute, and you also realize that you go forward with people, and that's what also would make your network, right? Which is one of the reasons people end up doing an MBA. But I feel that the reason for that is not necessarily to build a network for the sake of it, but how do you collaborate during the journey to build that network? If you've been collaborative enough, you would be able to build that network. At ISB, I realized that, again, prioritization was very important because it was a 1-year course. Very, very fast-paced course, unlike an undergrad degree, where you could do things at your own pace. You enter, very, very quick 5 weeks happen and your 1 semester is gone. And that's something which would have never happened in the past, neither in school, neither in undergrad college, neither at home. And there would be a lot of things happening as well, including activities, parties, networking events. You would have your own academic stuff as well. So the first thing you will end up doing is prioritizing. You will realize, boss, what is important for me. I mean, there would be for few semesters where you would say that I'll be low key, I'll focus on my studies, sleep, and let's say sports. There would be few terms you'll say, okay, I'll focus on sleep, sleep, food, and let's say party, right? So you start deciding what is important in what stage, which is very, very important, because you have to realize that people generally end up, and I realize that most of the folks would be pretty younger to me. So the Gen Z calls it FOMO, right? So that is something which has to be avoided, and in the sense of that, irrespective of whatever things you do, you would end up missing. Similar, like being collaborative, right? Irrespective of how good you are, you would at one point in a time you'll enter a room where you are not the best, and that's where you have to realize the importance of collaboration. Similarly, as and when you move ahead in the journey, you will realize the importance of prioritization. It will also be important for your work, because even at work you will have a lot of projects. You have to prioritize what is most important in what time. Similarly, in life, there will be situations where you have to realize what is more important during this time of my phase. Right? So I think that's something which allowed me to build a very, very strong foundation of how things have to be taken forward. Post which I told you guys, right? I mean, I joined a startup, led product marketing, currently working with Google.